Have you had an encounter you'd like to hear narrated on this channel? Well, if so, get in there and get busy and send me an email with all the details. Don't leave anything out. We want to hear it all. You can send your email to me at contact@buckeyebigfoot.com. Hey there, everyone, and welcome. Now, tonight we're going to continue with the incredible series of encounters with a friendly Bigfoot named Hatwoah, and they're being sent in by Victor. So, go get your snackage and get settled up. Hatwoah and all the other Bigfoot out there are waiting for us. Let's go. Hello, my friends. I thank you again for allowing me to share my most sacred experience that I've ever had in my life with you. This almost 19 years of a blessed relationship that I've had with Hatwoah. I do not know how many parts there will be, and I can't promise that I will finish the entire story, but as of now, I am determined to tell the entire story. This story is not only about the encounters I have had, it's also the other experiences I had, emotionally, and when I wasn't meeting him, it totally restructured my entire life. So don't get disappointed when my story doesn't have an encounter. I'm sorry, but that's part of the story, and that part also must be told. I'm not writing this for your entertainment. I'm writing it for all of you to understand them and to respect them and appreciate them. I know one day they will be introduced to the masses. They've been hunting them for a long time, and there are some in captivity. Now, some can call me crazy, but one day they will eat their words. That's a fact and a promise. Now, last time I left off going to the new meeting spot. I left my stuff at the old campsite, except his mug and other cooking supplies. I took those with me to hide at the new location. This would make it easier for me next time to carry. I went down the ladder and walked around, trying to get the lay of the land. I saw there were cliffs surrounding that area. I also saw there were 2 other caves, but I opted not to venture into them. I put all the items I was leaving behind in a thick army green duffel bag and covered it all with vines and pine needles. I went back up the ladder and covered the entrance, then headed home. Thursday night. I was stressing about how to tell my girlfriend I'm leaving for the weekend again. She probably thinks I'm having an affair with another woman. I decided to tell her the truth and get it over with. We were lying in bed after the kids all went to sleep. I told her I needed to tell her something very important and to not judge me so fast. She was very nervous. She didn't know what I was going to say to her. So I said the reason that I left last weekend and the reason I'm leaving again this weekend. And then she interrupted me and said, "You're cheating on me. I don't want to hear it. Screw you." I grabbed her and said, No, I'm not cheating on you. It's nothing bad, but it's a bit unbelievable. I then told her the story from the very beginning, and she was in disbelief. But to my surprise, she actually believed me. She said, "I know you're a smart man, and you're not crazy, so I have no other option but to believe you. It's a bit hard to take in, but I do believe what you're saying." She then proceeded to ask if she could come along with me. I had to tell her, no, not yet. I'm still trying to get to know him. But I promised that someday I would take her. On Saturday morning, we went to the store and purchased all kinds of stuff that I could give and show to Hatwoah. I bought a large bag made of heavy canvas to carry things in, a fire-making magnesium striker, 20 bars of ivory soap, 20 mylar thermal blankets, the large ones to keep them warm in the winter, collapsible Tupperware about 10 inches high for drinking water, 5 of them, 2 large beach towels, a large hairbrush, and a large plastic rake to brush his hair. Lastly, I got a natural hair conditioner from a beauty supply store made with coconut oil. Saturday afternoon, about 1 p.m., I got on the road to go to the campsite. I arrived at 4:30 or so and began the trek to the site, about another 30 to 45-minute walk. It wasn't easy carrying everything, so I stopped often. I still had to make the 2 trips from the truck back to the campsite. I couldn't carry everything at once. At my second trip, retrieving the items, it got dark out. I arrived at the old site, but being that it was getting dark and he wouldn't be there until the next day, I decided I would camp there for the night, then get up really early and move to the new area. I started a fire and set up 2 tents, one to sleep in and one to put all the items I bought for him. About 25 minutes later, I hear something from the same direction that I had just come from. I figured that was odd. I took my flashlight and I was surprised to see another light flashing back at me. I recognized the uniforms and the hat. It was 2 park rangers. They came to my camp. They were called to the site that's below me 20 minutes away for a disorderly person making trouble. While there, they were told of a man that was seen going back and forth deeper into the woods carrying large items, and that they had seen a handgun on his belt. They walked along my path to investigate and to make sure that everything was okay. They saw the campfire after walking a bit. So now I'm trying to get rid of them. They're asking me all sorts of questions. Do I often camp alone? How long am I staying? Do I have a firearm? I told them yes, I had a side piece, and they were perplexed. Why wasn't I carrying a rifle? No one takes side piece camping, especially the powerful one that I had. I explained that I have a concealed carry license and that I'm in law enforcement. They asked to see my badge. I showed them my carrying license. They said, yeah, but how about your badge? I explained I didn't have it with me, and the license was good enough. I told them I brought it for protection because I'm alone, and a rifle was too big. They made faces like they didn't believe me, and then said, if you're alone, why do you have 2 tents set up? I explained that I brought lots of gear with me because I'm practicing new survival tactics. I showed them the items in the tent, and they said, why all those bars of soap? I firmly said that I was in a special unit with the U.S. government. I'm not at liberty to say what unit, but that I could provide them with a number to call to confirm my identity. As far as the items in the tent, they may seem weird to everyone else, but they were for experimental use in possible new survival tactics. After what seemed to be hours, they finally left and said to be careful. It was about 8 p.m. by now, and I started to gather mint tea leaves so the next morning I could take everything to the new location. The next morning, about 4:30 a.m., I gathered everything and proceeded to the new location. I set up the 2 tents and started a fire. I retrieved the items I had left behind before. I boiled mint tea and waited. Around 6:15, I hear some noise in the woods in the front of me to the left. I also hear footsteps. The area that I hear it from is very heavy with vegetation. No way he could navigate through that. Then suddenly I hear, Vic. I said, Hatwoah. I then heard a grunt and a kind of a laugh or giggle, and I knew it was him. I stood up to greet him, and he plowed through the thick brush with a big log in his hands, holding it out in front of him. That was impressive. We hugged. He was so happy to see me he was swaying side to side. I was also happy to see him. We sat down and I gave him his mug full of mint tea, and I put sugar in his hand to eat. He seemed to like that. I tried to ask him about his daughter, and he made 2 stick figures in the dirt. I think he was saying she's with the mother doing things. I went to the tent to retrieve the things that I had brought for him. I started with the fire starter striker, and he was actually able to start a fire with some leaves. I gestured to him that it was for his to keep. He was so happy. He stood up and was like doing a little happy dance. Then he sat back down. I then took out the thermal blankets and showed him that they can be used to keep his baby and family warm. I showed him how to cover himself and left it on him to feel the heat after a while, and he realized what it was and liked it very much. I also gestured to him that it's his to keep. He lifted his arms up and down in excitement. I gave him the ivory soap. He smelled it and was going to eat it, but I grabbed his arm and stopped him. I took a piece of charcoal and smeared it all over my arms and face. I then took him down to the creek. I started cleaning myself also, showing him how to keep the soap out of his eyes, and if it got in his eyes, what to do. I also tried to explain to him this will not hurt him or the fish in the creek. I gestured for him to wet his whole body and come out to the bank. He came out, and I showed him how to lather up his hair and to make suds and keep working it into his hair. He went back in and rinsed all the soap off. He repeated this 3 times. I gestured to him to shake his body like a dog to get all the water off his hair. He got me soaking wet. I gave him the beach towels to dry himself off. We sat at the fire for about 45 minutes, drinking tea and trying to communicate about different topics. I reached out to touch his arm to see if it's dry. He gave me a smile and rubbed my arm the same way I did, checking to see if it's dry. That was cute. He was dry, so I got him to stand up, and then I poured the conditioner in his hands and showed him how to rub it into his hair. It took up 1.5 bottles. After he rubbed it in, I tried to brush it, but it was too hard to do it with the brush, so I took the rake and gestured for him to lift his arms, and I began to get all the knots out of his hair. After about 30 minutes and getting the knots out, he started to shed hair. He loved it. It probably felt like a massage to him. He was squirming and shaking like he had gotten the goosebumps. His hair was so soft and shiny, he kept rubbing it and smelling it while we sat. I showed him the big Tupperware that he could use to drink from instead of using his cupped hands. He was so excited, he took it straight to the creek and brought it back full with water, and he offered me a drink. I tried to explain that I cannot drink the creek water, that I'd get sick, and I showed him my own water. He drank it a little sloppily, but he was getting the hang of it. He was fascinated with the collapsible feature it had. I gave him the 5 that I'd brought with me. He reacted the same way he did when I gave him the other things, like the rake, the beach towels, and the conditioner, and also the large canvas bag to carry everything in. I then remembered to ask him if he had heard me or received my message telepathically when I was meditating. I think he understood what I was saying, because he began touching my head, then his head with his hands, like data going back and forth between the 2 heads. But he was trying to explain something else to me as well, but I really couldn't understand what he was trying to say. He went on for about 25 minutes trying to explain something. I got bits and pieces, but not enough to make sense of it. Next time I meet him, I'm bringing a large presentation board and markers, really large markers. They will be perfect to draw things and write things for the purpose of understanding and to explain things to one another. After we figured out that it's just not happening, this understanding each other of what he was trying to say, he got up and he gestured for me to follow him. He grabbed me and put me against his chest to protect my body while he was going through the heavy brush. We came out the other side, and I must say it was about 30 feet to get through that. We came to a cliff with about a 16-foot drop. He gestured for me to wait, and then he jumped off the cliff. He then called out to me, "Vic, Vic." I looked down, and he gestured with his hands for me to jump. What? Oh, heck no. I made it clear I was not jumping. He started to pat his chest with both hands, making a soft, grunting sound as if saying, "Trust me." I felt that if I didn't show him some trust, it might insult him. He was showing me how to jump. He wanted me to jump like I was laying down on a couch, and he would catch me. I was so afraid that I was going to die or get crippled if I fell to the ground. But I closed my eyes, aimed for his arms, and I jumped. All I can say is it felt like I landed on a pile of feathers. It was a very soft landing. He stood me up and started to grunt and pound on his chest as if saying, "See, I told you. You can trust me. See that? You didn't get hurt." We walked about 10 minutes more and jumped one more cliff. My thoughts were, how are we going to get back up these cliffs on the way back? We came to a clearing and he told me, and by the way, from now on, I'm going to say that he told me instead of that he gestured to me. It's easier for me to type that. I'm typing with just 2 fingers. Anyway, he told me to sit behind this bush and to stay there. He took 2 thin, long pieces of wood, about 10 feet long, and 2 about 5 feet long. He laid them down like a picture frame. Then he tied the corners with some green vines. He started to weave the center like a basket weave. For about 40 minutes he worked to make a 10-foot by 5-foot square with the center woven like a basket. It looked like a large window screen. He made 2 of them, and another that was the same height, but only about 4 feet wide. He stood the large ones up long ways, then tied them up, standing them in a V shape like a funnel. He used 6 pieces of wood to hold them up. Then he started to walk away while looking at the ground. He stopped. He knelt down, and he started to smell the ground. He put the small screen in front of him. Then he plowed his hands straight into the ground about 2 feet. It was amazing how he could plow his hands right into the ground. The strength he has is way beyond what I thought he had. That takes supernatural strength to do something like that. At the same time, while he was pulling out his hands, 4 rabbits came jumping out. He jumped and chased them, herding them from right to left, like he was herding them right toward the V-shaped screen. He chased them all the way until they got to the narrow end. That's when he used the small screen. He blocked them in and used his legs to hold the small screen so they couldn't escape. In about 4 to 5 seconds, he grabbed them one at a time by the neck and squeezed their neck, snapping it. Then he took the screens apart and hid them in a bush, I assumed for the next time to use them. He came to me holding them with a big smile on his face. I felt that I should praise him to make him feel good, so I jumped up with my hands in the air with a big smile, saying his name and saying, "Wow, wow, that was awesome," patting him on the arm, showing him that I was impressed. He was so proud of himself. He took a green vine and put it through their mouths and then out the back of their necks, tying them together to easily carry them. He carried them like a messenger bag across his chest. I saw some garlic and some mint growing, so I picked some and put it in my pockets. Now he started to walk back the same way we came. That's when I started to think, how are we going to climb back up those 2 cliffs? We got to the first cliff, and he took a green vine, tied it into a ring, then put it around his chest under his armpits. He took it off, and he put it under my armpits, and then took it back off. He then put it back under his armpits and knelt down. He held it for me to also get on his back and to put it under my armpits. So I got on his back, and we both had this vine under our armpits. The vine was incredibly strong. He stood up and gestured for me to wrap my arms around his neck. So I did. That's when I felt his muscles. They are rock hard, literally. It felt like I was hugging a rock. Now, I know he took a bath, and his hair was so silky soft. But that smell had come back and overpowered the ivory soap. I don't remember if I told you why they smell like that. They have scent glands behind their ears and on their wrists that always secrete a unique scent that they all have, each one smelling different. I assume that's how they mark their territory and identify each other. So now I'm on his back, holding onto his neck with the vine wrapped around both of us. He put his hand on my hand that's around his neck, trying to show me, hold on tight. He made sounds like 1, 2, 3, go, or get ready, set, go, something like that, but in his language. I say that because he bent his knees up and down 3 times while making the sounds, like he was saying 1, 2, 3, ready, set, go. He then jumped about 5 feet up on the ledge and started to climb, pulling his body and mine up the cliff in a masterful way, like a ballet dancer jumping so elegantly, where every step is pre-calculated. In 4 seconds, we were on the top of the cliff. I went to get off, but he said to stay. And please remember, I will not say that he gestured anymore, because you know he did not say it, but he actually gestured for me to stay on his back. I feel I have to say this again because I know we're going to have someone in the comments section say, "What happened? He suddenly knows how to talk, or what?" Anyway, he took me all the way back to the campsite, climbing the second cliff. He told me to make the rabbit the same way as the last time, letting me understand that he liked it. He also let me know that he wanted the pelts. I should have known to save them the last time. As we were eating, I wanted to know if they eat their meat cooked or raw. He let me know when they eat meat, it's raw, but they mostly eat vegetation. They use fire for warmth. He also let me know that his wife stays lactating indefinitely so long as the child is suckling. If food is scarce in the winter, the whole family could suckle for nutrition, even him. But he would get some kind of meat for the wife, maybe just small game because he can't venture far in the winter. But he also gets wood and water for the family daily. I asked him, how does he transport the water? To my amazement, he gestured to me that he uses a deer skin that's made like a pitcher with a vine like a carrying strap. They also use leaves, moss, and pine needles on the ground covered with deer skin as beds. He also told me that after 30 minutes or so of trying to understand him, that the vegetation under the deer skins starts to ferment, and it will give off lots of heat under them. He also said that they live in caves most of the time, if they can find one, and then he makes a camouflage door to cover the entrance. He wanted to know how I live and ate. I tried to explain a house and kitchen, and the heating system and central air conditioning, but it really wasn't happening. The next time we meet, I decided that I would show him so he understands. I would take pictures and have them blown up and bring books. He had to go, and we planned the next weekend that we will meet the same time and place. He wanted to carry me on his back up the ladder and part of the way back, but I refused. I don't want him taking any unnecessary chances in getting spotted by someone, or even worse, the park rangers. We hugged, and it seemed like he didn't want to leave, but he had to go to his family. He grabbed his bag of stuff and left. I packed all my stuff and proceeded to leave. When I was almost by the other campsite 20 minutes away below my old campsite, I see 2 guys. And what do you know? It's the rangers again. They greeted me, and I tried to keep walking. But the one ranger said, "1 minute, please. We came by here earlier, and all your stuff was gone. Where did you go?" I told them I went to another side about 4 miles away because this area wasn't good for what I wanted to experiment the new survival techniques. I pointed the opposite way from our new meeting spot. They said, "Is the Range Rover truck out there yours?" I said, "Yes, why?" I already knew that they knew it was mine because they must have run my license plate number. They said, "No reason, just asking. But that's a nice truck and expensive for someone getting just a government paycheck. What did that run you, $60,000 to $70,000? It looks new." I stepped into their face about 18 inches from them and said, "I've been patient and kind, but I'm losing my patience and kindness, as the questions are more like an interrogation. What is it you want to know, or what do you think I'm doing?" I said this with a firm and serious voice. Then I said, "My advice to both of you is to stop this harassment. You don't want to keep poking this bear. Would you like your commander to tell you what it is I'm telling you?" The one ranger said, "You don't scare us." I said, "I'm not trying to scare you. I'm trying to let you know to leave me alone. Stop your questions and comments as they're not warranted." I then walked away. As I was driving home down the mountain about 3 miles from the site, I saw a state trooper put his lights on. He then pulled me over. But the trooper waited for backup before approaching my vehicle. They finally approached my truck, one on the right, one on the left, with their hands on their side pieces. The one on my side told me to lower the windows on both sides and keep one hand on the steering wheel while doing so. I complied. Then I was told to keep my hand on the steering wheel and to take my other hand and open my door using the outside door handle. When I stepped out, the state trooper grabbed me by the arm, then attempted to slam me onto my truck, but almost ended up losing his balance instead. Now remember, I'm a big boy, 6 foot plus in solid muscle. The other trooper yelled out, "Did he just push you?" I said, "I didn't push anyone." He told me to shut my mouth. The other trooper said, "No, I just lost my balance." But the other one insisted that I pushed him, hinting to the other one near me that lost his balance to say that I did push him so they could arrest me. I bent down and put my head in my car window and looked through the car to meet eyes with the trooper on the other side. Then he started to scream while pulling his gun out of his holster. "He has a gun! He has a gun!" He had just seen my gun under the passenger side floor mat. The other one stepped away from me and drew his gun on me as well. Well, my friends, God bless to you all. Be safe and be kind to your fellow human. That includes Bigfoot. Thanks, Vic. All right, and a big thank you to Vic for sending that in. We really do appreciate it. I know a lot of us are really hooked on this storyline, so we'll be waiting with bated breath for the next installment. Now, if you have no idea who Vic or this Hatwoah stuff is all about, what it's all about, be sure to look down in the video description below. I'll put a link to the first several parts so you understand how they met and how it's progressed to this part. And be on the lookout for the next one because he usually is starting to send one in about once a week, and we really do like that. Otherwise, everyone, I'm going to call it quits for tonight. I hope you've enjoyed tonight's ride as much as I did. And we're going to be meeting up again real soon. But until then, please always remember, absence of proof is not proof of absence. Thanks for listening.